Welcome to the ARFCOM Reviews Suppressor Breakdown. We've been getting into a bunch of testing, and with wait times at an all-time low and potentially the HPA getting past, and if not, at the very least, the cost of getting NFA devices lowering, we decided to go and tell you everything you might need to know about suppressors.
Imagine a 9mm carbine with roller delay action just like Kraut Space Magic. Now imagine it didn't have garbage ergonomics. The brand new Kuna from Springfield Armory gives you that roller-delayed, smooth recoil you're looking for with reversible, non-reciprocating charging handle and absolutely everything.
So the first big question we got to address, either to yourself or to your spouse, is why might you want a suppressor? There's a couple different reasons you might. In a lot of training environments, it's actually required. A lot of people, too, just want that extra layer of hearing protection, or in a more tactical sense, you might be trying to reduce the signature of that gunshot, or in rural areas where you're just trying to be a very polite neighbor, having a suppressor probably allows you to shoot a little later in the day or more frequently without being rude. In general, there is no perfect can, and that's kind of what everyone asks automatically right after we get past that part of the discussion. Your use case is going to dictate what's going to work for you. The easy analogy that I tend to use with people is if you need to tow a house, you're probably not buying a Toyota Camry, but if you want good gas mileage, you're not buying an F-350. So just keep in mind where you picture yourself with your suppressor and what you want out of it, and we will give you guys some context for it. Since now we know we have to have a purpose-built can for our use case, the first consideration you're going to want to take when looking at cans is size. It's probably the most obvious difference between the ones I have here on the table. The biggest thing you're going to want to know as a general rule of thumb is the larger the can gets, the more likely it is to perform better. From a performance metric, I mean make the gun quieter. Conversely, also, depending on baffle design and everything else going on, those escaping gases can be cooled enough that it actually reduces the likelihood of a flash. There's two categories here when you're talking specifically about size. People will refer to them as K cans if they're less than 5.5 inches. Most of those are really more designed to take the edge off a gun, or you have a full-size can, which is anything after that size. The other thing you might think about too with this is weight. There is something to say about barrel harmonics and POI shift, or point of impact shift. Basically, barrel harmonics is every time you shoot the gun, the barrel's going to wiggle. If I'm adding weight or anything to the front of that, it's going to wiggle a little differently. It's the easiest way I can explain it. Typically, the larger the can gets, the heavier it's going to get. The only thing that's going to change that is material. This titanium can is actually lighter than this Incanel can, so that is something to think about. Each material is going to have a slightly different property on the performance end of things, but it's definitely going to have a dramatic effect on two very specific things. One is weight, and two is going to be cost, and we'll kind of get into the major food groups for all of the usual things that suppressors are made out of and what you might get out of them. The first one's going to be stainless steel. It's the middle of the road as far as weight is concerned, but it's definitely the bottom from a cost standpoint as far as high-use, heavy-duty cans. In general, it's a very reputable material. They've been making cans out of stainless steel for decades now, so don't see it as a detractor, even though it might be less expensive. Most of that comes from the availability of the material and also the cost of manufacturing it. The second big one is going to be Incanel. It is likely the most trusted metal, but it's also by far the most heavy. It is the densest metal out of the group. It's trusted mostly because military contractors use it. There are definitely some benefits from a hardness standpoint. It is an alloy and it is a mixture, but it is typically a plus. If you're paying more money for an Incanel can, it's because it costs more to manufacture and tool for. Even with 3D printed Incanel cans, just the mixture of the metal itself is expensive. So expect to pay a bit more, but you are getting something for that extra money. The most controversial metal out of the group here is going to be titanium. Titanium is by a mile the lightest and is actually, ironically, stronger, if not just as strong as stainless steel. It makes for really cool configurations, and you can get very, very large, very good performing cans from a sound standpoint without them weighing a ton. The only downside specifically with titanium is sparking. It is something that's very unique to this. Baffle design is going to have some effect on that, and we've actually had some titanium cans that actually performed rather well, so it's not a universal issue with the metal, but it is going to happen where it won't with stainless steel and it won't with Incanel. So with size and material considerations, the only thing that I would like to caveat here is going to be barrel restrictions. If you look up on websites prior to purchase, or if you've already bought it, go ahead and consult your owner's manual. There's likely going to be recommendations on what you can and cannot put this on as far as caliber and then barrel length. So just be considerate of that. Modifying your gun unintentionally at the range is pretty suboptimal. The last thing for materials is going to be one of the new kids on the block, which is Haynes 282. It's a relatively new metal, very similar to Incanel. It's designed to work really well at high temperatures. So for you guys that are running FRTs or belt feds or cool stuff like that, you might prefer that metal over Incanel. And then for some of the guys that are actually doing kind of the more fun stuff like 22 LR or 12 gauge, you can have cans made out of aluminum, which dramatically lowers the cost of those cans. But just be careful, just because 22 doesn't mean 223. So again, consult your user's manual before installing. Now that we've addressed all the things that you can see about a suppressor, what about the things that you can't? Specifically, what's inside of the can. How suppressors actually operate is through what's called baffles, or just simply a break in the escaping air to change the direction of that escaping air. With the advent of additive manufacturing, it has really shook up the design game as far as what's going on inside of these cans, and has really sparked the argument of how I can both reduce back pressure and increase performance of the suppressors in a given amount of space. So generally there's 3 performance indicators that all of these different attributes are going to contribute to. One is going to be flash, and this is just the reigniting of unburnt powder coming out of the muzzle. 2 is going to be back pressure, and this is just going to be how much more pressure, because that escaping gas isn't just leaving right away, is going back into your system, which really only matters for semi-automatic firearms or gas-operated firearms. And the third one is going to be heat. This is going to be likely most attributed to both design and sometimes coding based on our testing, specifically to talk about this B&T can. Once we get to the results, you guys will be impressed. But all 3 of those things are going to contribute to how that can performs on the end of your gun. The last large hurdle you're going to have to jump over is going to be mounting solutions. Now, traditionally, these are pretty expensive devices, and because there's a tyranny tax on top of that, a lot of people used to go and elect to get a multi-caliber or just a larger caliber suppressor, and then end up adapting those to smaller calibers so that they could have one device to kind of rule them all. Mounting a suppressor from a larger caliber to a smaller one might have some diminishing returns as far as performance, but here's a couple of ways to do it. The most lightweight and cost-effective way to do this is going to be direct thread. It adds the least amount of length to your can, and it's by far the most straightforward. If you're going to take your 30 cal, or traditionally 5/8 by 24 thread pitch, and size that down to your 5.56 or 1/2 by 28, simply buy the adapter and make sure that you have it lined up correctly. The easiest way to do that is with alignment rods, because if you don't have barrel concentricity, or you did something weird in mounting, you could have baffle strikes, and that would be a bad day for everybody. The next and most likely universal adapter is going to be hub. Cans that are hub adaptable are going to have a 1 3/8 by 24 thread pitch on the back of the can, allowing it to accept a bunch of different solutions, specifically being both direct thread and proprietary muzzle devices. This allows you to more easily go back and forth between different weapon systems or different proprietary mounts, such as Surefire, B&T Rotex, ASR, Rearden, and a ton of others. Now, I know we didn't go down a rabbit hole of the usual autism. However, we're going to address a lot of those questions in separate videos. Ultimately, our goal is to make sure that we get common use with these devices so they can't be taken away from us in the future. If you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the comment section below. I do try to answer all of them when I can. Go ahead and like and subscribe to this channel if you like this type of content. You can also check out our Discord or the forums if you'd like to see some more generational knowledge that you would like to get access to. Until next time, go ahead and stay shooting.